But it's okay, Your Excellency, to say that we would like to see, but can we see it?
It will happen.
Ghana cannot balance its budget.
For
Doesn't
instance,
mean we have to find investment for it. You're going to find investment from the north, the same north that does not want you, actually, to intra-trade because it's not in their interest to do so.
No. You know, there is already the decision what is called Yamoussoukro, which is here in West Africa. Yamoussoukro is in Cote d'Ivoire. And the decision was that Africa should move quickly to have free skies. What has happened in Eastern and Southern Africa, they moved quickly to do that. But in West Africa, things are not static. I have seen even private airlines in Nigeria now that are becoming stronger. I have seen Ghana Airways starting to be a little better. Of course, in West Africa, you had this problem of what was the airline called? The West African airline that was owned by mainly the
Air Afrique.
Air Afrique. The model of that kind of airline is for yesterday. You are starting to have a new ownership pattern. And I can see this becoming a nucleus of things to change. Now, you keep referring to, well, you will have some of these being owned by companies in the north. I don't know. I still have to understand why that preoccupation. But my answer to you is this. No foreigner would come here and start operating an airline here, or any business for that matter, if they're not making money. Now, what is restraining the local business people coming together to form a business to exploit that market?
It's access to capital.
That's a correct one.
How can we make that better?
That's one of the things we're discussing here. Facilitating trade. In fact, if you look at the elements of boosting intra-African trade, some of the checkpoints we talk about is trade financing. What does trade financing mean? It means we must have instruments that allow businesses, genuine businesses, to access banking, finance. We must have instruments that also safeguard banks. And we are starting to see those instruments like insurance, business, but also facilities to be able to track and arrest those that are what you call fraudsters, who exist in the continent and other parts of the world.
Let's come now to the Economic Partnership Agreement.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, it simply means an agreement between Europe and Africa. And this agreement is being nurtured to replace the Lome provision, which allows Africa to access the European market, but which is seen not to be compatible to WTO. You know, under WTO, there is a provision which you call most favored nation, meaning any trade advantage that you give to a WTO member, you must give it to all the WTO members. Europe, by allowing Africa to access its market duty-free, quota-free, was bound to do that globally. That was not going to be meaningful. So they came with an idea of economic partnership agreement because the WTO treaty does allow bilateral arrangement of that nature, provided it is done within the framework of the WTO stipulations. There is a particular article for that. The negotiations for this started way back in 2001. Today, 2011, we have not concluded because there are some contentious issues in those agreements that Africa cannot afford to live with. And which means, of course, for Europe, they are trying to position themselves to make sure that the market access they had, particularly in the era that their colonies, is safeguarded. And to the detriment of Africa, because they would not like us to then have better products coming to Africa from other sources. And so this is the argument. And we are putting up...
So the EPA essentially says that you will buy products from Europe.
Yes.
You will not buy products from Asia.
Well, no, I mean, it doesn't say you cannot buy. But under the trade tariffs, if, for instance, you are buying a car from Europe, that car comes to Africa duty-free. But a car from Japan comes in at the duty of, say, 30%. Obviously, the car from Europe is going to be cheaper to import than the car from...
What does Africa get for signing that agreement?
The reason why this is called Economic Partnership Agreement is just that it is more than a trade agreement, that you can also cooperate in the areas of technical cooperation, transfer of technology, and support in areas like infrastructure and the rest. And so it goes beyond just trade. And that's why in our negotiations we have to be smart to check what is there, because obviously Europe, by giving you the market, they're not going, there's nothing like free lunch.
So really the EPA has nothing concrete for Africa?
I think let's be careful about this.
Because you seem to be clear about...
Europe is 50% of all our exports. All our exports, about 50% of it goes to Europe. And that's an average. Some countries
but
do more.
That's a colonialist arrangement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to the price tags, if you look at that market, are we able to diversify beyond those 50%? So that if we close that market, we can do that? The answer for immediately no. But can Europe also afford not to do business with us? The answer is no. Hence the stalemate. Let's continue to discuss until we reach a mutual agreement that is mutually beneficial.
I see. So Africa has not signed it yet?
No.
If Africa signs, it means that all the members of the African Union will have appended signature, no, or the African Union will do it on behalf of everybody else?
This is another matter. This agreement is not being negotiated as Africa and Europe, and that is one of the issues we have with it. It is being negotiated largely like ECOWAS and Europe, SADC and Europe, what they call Eastern and Southern Africa and Europe, which is largely COMESA, or East African Community and Europe. So there are 4 negotiating regions with Europe. And if you look at
Europe
the content,
negotiates with each of the 4.
Yeah, it's like divide and rule.
Absolutely.
And we are saying it is not going to be beneficial for us, especially as we construct our continental free trade area. And so what we did as African Union was to prepare a text that says this is the minimum you must accept in any negotiating arrangement. If that minimum is upheld, then it doesn't matter whether you sign 4 agreements. But any agreement that will not meet this minimum will be prejudicial to us creating our own continental free trade area.
But does the AU not have sufficient teeth to say that ECOWAS don't negotiate with them, COMESA don't negotiate, and SADC don't negotiate with them, and tell the European Union that come and speak with Addis Ababa?
No, we don't have that.
Can't you do that?
We don't have that.
Why not?
Well, it was done on a technical basis. The technical basis that you have to be a trading arrangement to have that basis. And until like the process which we are starting here now in Ghana this time, because we are saying now we are constructing a continental free trade area, we were all as a continent individual except at the regional economic communities. That's why the negotiations were taking place as ECOWAS, because ECOWAS was moving towards a trade arrangement. Africa did not have that trade arrangement until we got here, and this is what the process we have started.
So after this, APA will be negotiated with Addis Ababa?
Not yet, because we are only starting. But that's the notification we have given. We have told them that because we also want to be a trading bloc, what you are trying to negotiate must take into consideration that Africa is moving towards being a free trade area, so the negotiations must be friendly to Africa creating its own trade arrangement.